I'm talking to Stephen Cousins from the Irish Blood Transfusion Service. Stephen, how's it going?
Hi, Darren. How are you?
Stephen, I have given blood in your centre on Delir Street many times. I understand that you are a national service, though. Before we talk about your latest campaign, could you tell us about your service on a nationwide basis, and could you tell us what you do with the organisation, please?
Well, I'm the National Donor Services Manager, so essentially it's my role to get donors to come into clinics. We have clinics around the country from Monday to Friday. And occasionally at weekends as well. And really, our remit is to provide blood and blood components to all the hospitals across the whole of the Republic of Ireland. So that's, when people think blood, it's normal, red blood cells, but also we do platelets, which is a blood component that is used for people suffering from cancer and for burns victims. And there's other products, I suppose, within blood that we use as well. But the main one people know is the actual physical blood.
Yeah, there was a big article in the Irish Times recently on a new international campaign you were involved with. Could you tell us the rationale behind it, please, and what you hope to achieve?
Yes, it's a very important campaign for us. Basically, in the last 10 years worldwide, there's been a very significant fall in new donors registering to become donors attending clinics. So I think worldwide it's been about a 30% fall. In Ireland it hasn't been as bad as that, but it's still about 21%. So that has a serious impact in that it means that we don't have as many donors to call on as we need, but it also means that the average age of our donor is increasing because the new donors that aren't attending, they're actually young donors. And we obviously need them coming through to replace people who can't give blood anymore as donors get older. So it's a big objective for us to fix that problem. The reason it's kind of happened is, there's lots of different reasons. In lots of cases for young people it's actually an awareness thing. That maybe giving blood is something that doesn't really register with them, or it's something that I think maybe older people are supposed to do, or it's just not something on the radar, I suppose. And it's important that we make that extra effort to get that message across, because we certainly do need them. And then you have other things like, particularly, we're a national organisation, immigration has had a big impact. So there's the young people aren't there as much as they used to be. So again, they're not coming in. Within a Dublin context, actually, there is a striking characteristic across the world, is that urbanisation has caused blood donations to fall. And effectively what you have is that, if we go to a small community village or town around the country, the blood donation clinic coming is something that people know. It's something they feel is part of the community, and it's something they support. In Dublin, while it is relevant in parts of Dublin, and it's certainly relevant for lots of people, it's not relevant for as many people in all parts of Dublin. So it's not seen as being a central part of the community services. So you don't get the same rally around attending clinics, and that's something that, so we basically have to fight harder to get people coming in. So now worldwide, what you've had, and in Ireland as well, you've had more people moving to the cities, so it's less people available for us to get into the clinics, really.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about the actual campaign again in a couple of minutes. Is it true that there are some people with certain types of blood that are in a big demand, and could you tell us what these groups are, or these types are, and how many people you think in Ireland have them?
Well, it's a hard one, Darren, I suppose, because in any given week we need all types of blood, because the way we actually operate is we only ever have about 7 days worth of supply of blood. So if we stopped collecting today, 7 days from now there would be no blood available for the hospitals in Ireland. So we do need to keep topping up all the blood groups that are there. Now, that said, you have certain blood groups that it can be harder to keep the supply as high as we'd like. So you take something like O negative. Is the reason O negative is a difficult one is that it's called a universal blood group, and what that means is that people whose blood is O negative can be given to any patient. So while the O neg tends to be only 8% of the population, it's actually about 15% of the issues that we give to hospitals, because if there's a situation where a hospital doesn't know someone's blood, they're coming in an emergency, they can give them O neg. So you get situations like that. But like a funny one that we've had, it was an unusual circumstance for all through the summer really, was that we've actually struggled on O positive. Now O positive is actually the biggest blood group in Ireland. It's 47% of the population, and we were down to nearly 2.5 days at one stage. So it was a really big issue for us, and there's lots of reasons why that can happen, and summer is always a difficult time to get people to give blood, but there was different reasons why it was happening. But so in that case, while O-pos tends not to be a problem, this summer it has been a major problem. Now thankfully we've gotten through most of it. We're back up to about 5-6 days, but as I say, in a given week that can change. The hospital's demand could suddenly increase for whatever reason. And sometimes that's hard to manage because we don't quite know what the hospital schedules are, and that can impact. And as I say, we only want to collect a certain amount of blood, because if we collect too much blood, what actually happens is we end up with a situation where we've too much, and theoretically we'd end up dumping blood, which is certainly not something we do, and we don't want to get to that position. So we try to manage it as much as possible that we never get to that position.
I read in an article, this is several years ago, I think, that you use the Irish Blood Transfusion Service. If you haven't got certain blood or enough blood, you import it from Britain. Do you still do that, do you?
No, it's,
that's never happened.
I'm not sure. You get the very, very odd instance, like you could be talking about one donor every couple of years where there's something very specific about their blood and you're looking internationally for a donor to match them, and it could be someone from the UK. What we would have is that say, like any major organisation that provides critical service, we'd have a contingency plan if there was an emergency. So say we weren't able to collect blood for whatever period of time, we'd have an arrangement with other blood centres around the world that would be able to help us out. Now the UK would be an obvious organisation to talk to from that point of view, but there's others within Europe as well that we would talk to as well. So it's about the logistics of that would be, can you get the blood across quickly? But there's no ideal situation there, because quite a number of donors would know, we actually don't take blood from people who lived in the UK between 1980 and 1996, and that includes people who lived in Northern Ireland. And the reason for that is that they are at higher risk of contracting variant CJD. Now, that's not to scare anybody. It's effectively becomes mad cow disease. Now that's not to scare anybody, but because it obviously is a very minimal chance of it happening. But it was within the UK population, and that was up until 1996. Now the UK don't have a choice in that matter, because that is their whole population. They can't exclude their population from giving blood. But even within the UK, they actually focus on people who were born after 1996 and try and get them in as donors. So it is something that's there. And we actually thought, earlier on this year, we thought that maybe that restriction was going to be lifted, and it's a restriction that's recommended to us by the medical authorities from within the UK. But then in May, there was a case in the UK of someone developing mad cow disease through a transfusion. So it's still there, and what it means is the incubation period for within people is longer than was thought originally. So until that changes, we can't lift that restriction. So that impacts on our ability to take blood from people who have lived in the UK. So, in terms of importing blood, it's not something we'd ideally want to be doing from that point of view. But if the alternative was to have no blood whatsoever, of course you do, because it's about managing risk in the end. What's the riskiest situation that you'd find yourself in?
Could you just tell us about your campaign? Like I was saying, I read the article in the Irish Times. Is there much media coverage of this campaign? And are you doing your own campaign in the sense? Are you taking out ads, say on Dublin Bus or Bus Air and that kind of stuff?
Well, it's actually, we're a public organisation, and we do rely on the goodwill of companies and people and individuals to help us sure that the service we provide is based on volunteers coming in and giving their blood. And we've had fantastic support from people for the Missing Type campaign. And
that's what's called.
Yeah, and what it was that worldwide you had companies and people dropping ABO from their name. And it's kind of saying, well, imagine if you didn't have A, B's and O's, you could see the impact of it. And then what it's saying is from a blood group, because that's the three, all blood groups involve ABO. If we didn't have it, what would be the impact there? And we're saying is that we're missing types, particularly young people coming through with those blood groups. But, so for example, here we had fantastic support from the GA, Vodafone, Fáilte Ireland did lots of posting for us as well. A lot of social media pushing the whole thing. The Irish Mirror did some fantastic articles for us and changed the masthead on their paper. Avonmore, Paddy Power, Dundee, Dublin City Council. So there's lots of people got involved. There's an awful lot of sharing going on social media. We actually trended #1, so it was great to get that. What all of that did was it got a bit more awareness out there, particularly among the younger age group. That, and I was saying to you earlier on that they're an age group we struggle to get the message across to. So it was great to get that message out there that, listen, blood donation is something you should be thinking of. And I suppose there's different messages come out, because firstly there was the awareness, but then what we're asking people is, listen, what you should be doing as well is come in and give blood if there's a clinic near you. Now that's not always the case, because we're not in all parts of Ireland all the time. We go in and out of communities, so where we say then, if there isn't a clinic near you in the near future, you can actually go onto our website, giveblood.ie, and register your interest, and then when a clinic comes up in your area, we'll contact you in advance and let you know that, listen, we're in, for example, as it turns out, we're in Coolock next week, and Ballygall and Palmerston and places like that, so we'll be able to contact you in advance and say, listen, we're there, will you come in? So it was a couple of different actions, I suppose, we're asking people. Yeah, so it's brilliant. That's well, in that case, then people don't really have to register, because they can just come in next week. It's on in the Parnells GA Club on the Tuesday. So there's opportunities there, but there's even a longer term message to this as well, is because it's not a campaign just to get people to come in once and give blood, because demand goes on. The hospitals need blood every week, so it's about, if you come in, you become a donor. That's when we come back in 4 or 5 months, that again you think about coming in, if you can, at the next clinic as well. Ideally we'd love to see people coming into a blood donation clinic maybe twice a year, 2 or 3 times. Now we've some donors come in 4 times a year. You can only come in every 90 days, so and not everybody can come in that much.
What's the maximum you can come in 4 times a year?
Well, it depends on the way we kind of go around, but every 90 days is when you can come in for blood. For platelets, which we collect in St James's Hospital, you can actually come in every month. There's a different process there, but generally we kind of say every 90 days. Finally,
what is your message to our listeners in summary, and what ideally would you like to happen as a result of this campaign? And you can talk about the international picture as well if you want.
Well, I suppose it's to make sure people understand the importance of giving blood, and that they don't leave it for someone else to do. An amazing statistic is that 1 in 4 of us will require a blood transfusion at some point in our lives. So if that's not us, it's our family, it's our friends, it's somebody we know. But at any time, there's only 3% of the eligible population are active blood donors. So it's a lot of people relying on a very small group of people. So we need to get more people involved in giving blood. The immediate action I'd say to people is, we have a website, giveblood.ie, and what you can do there is you can see where the clinics are on and when they're on. So you can look and see what clinics are coming up in your area. There's also a very good eligibility test, because unfortunately not everybody can give blood. So you can go in there, and by and large you can see the main reasons why you mightn't be able to give blood. So if you find that there's a reason you can't give blood, it's, don't be coming into the clinic. It's a waste of your own time, and we don't want to be doing that for donors as well. So there's plenty of information, and there's even information about what's involved in the blood donation process.
So ideally, if any of our listeners really want to be the best of help they can be, they'd be coming in probably 3 times a year or something.
Yeah, 3 times a year is certainly a significant commitment. Come in first time, see how you get on. Bring a friend is always a good idea as well, and just see that you get used to it, because people have worries, particularly younger people. They can, fear of needles and that, and generally when they get in, they understand, listen, that's not a big deal. But ideally 2 to 3 times would be great if we could get donors doing that on that basis.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I suppose just that there's the clinics, particularly with yourselves. There's a clinic in Coolock next week, Ballygall next. So Coolock next Tuesday, Ballygall next Wednesday. I think we're in Artane Beaumont on Thursday, 15th of September as well. But all that information is on the website, giveblood.ie.
And you have your centre in Delire Street, which is pretty much in the dead centre of Dublin city centre.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Actually, that's very important as well. The clinics I was mentioning there, they're mobile clinics in which we go into an area, but actually we have the fixed centre in Delire Street that is there all the time, and people can come in from Monday to Friday and give blood. What I would say there is that we have an appointment system running. Now, it's not solely appointment, but I would recommend you make an appointment, because a lot of people do take up the good slots that are available around lunchtime and in the evening time. But you can ring either the Delire Street number, or we have a donor line number as well, 1850 731 137. Either way, you can make an appointment for Delire Street as well. And we have another one in Slorgan as well, but that's a good point. Delire Street's a very good clinic for us.
Okay, Stephen, thanks very much.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.